Is there such thing as a broken build in Dungeons and Dragons? The answer to that question is no, not at all. The only time this is a problem is when it's a problem at a table. So let's jump right on into this. As a dungeon master, if every single player at a table is playing a broken build, all I have to do is scale up the encounters, add more bad guys. Eventually, I'll find the balance. The problem is, in current modern day Dungeons and Dragons, we don't throw enough combat at our players to actually get a feel to what our players can do and what we need to put in front of them. As dungeon masters, we're afraid of killing our party. If I throw something too big at them, I'll just simply one-shot them. If I throw something too small at them, then they just roll it through. When I do a big encounter and I think I got it done, they one-shot my boss in the first round because they planned it all out. Those are the kinds of things that every table is different. If I'm playing with my daughter and her friends, they are not going to steamroll an opponent because they don't know the mechanics as well as my 30-year-old and 42-year-old and 52-year-old friends that have been playing for 30 years and understand every mechanic of the game and how to build broken builds. I throw different things at them, and I do a lot of changing of monsters because they allow their metagaming to seep in. It's a different type of game. So there is no right answer with, is there a broken build or a broken monster? It depends solely on your table. So as a dungeon master, how do you handle this? Well, simply put, have more smaller combats. Throw more combats at your players and make sure that you move those combats along. Combats do not have to take very long. You can have a series of combats where it moves quickly and you move it through and just ask the players what to do. When the players aren't concerned with dying necessarily, and they know they have the abilities or skills to take something out, they're more interested and more willing to move quickly. When you throw a bad monster at them and you make it feel big and bad and beefy, the guys are going to take their time. They're going to be afraid of making the wrong move because they're afraid of death. So you kind of have to take death off the table. But at the same time, making death real makes them more cautious. So telegraphing the level of fight and kind of what they're up against, it matters to the players because you as a dungeon master can kill them. If you have a habit of hiding a special ability and giving them these things that look meek and look like they're going to be one-shotted, and then they rail the players are always cautious. If you have a thing of throwing big things at the players that are always big and beefy and they just steamroll them, they're more willing to attack everything. There's a balancing act here. Now, when is a build actually broken? Well, this happens a lot when I have a group of young players and a veteran player. The veteran player will have a build that will be substantially beefier in either skills or combat and be able to kind of own the game. This creates a problem at that table. And sadly, there's no real good answer to this problem because I want to give that player the ability to play that player, but my young players feel like they just can't do something. Or I'll get a really heavy group of role players and then one power gamer. The problem is the discrepancy in the players themselves. It's not the build. If everyone's a power gamer, I can throw bigger, beefier, badder things at things, retcon things, reskin things, throw things in that they've never seen, and it works very well. But when I have that one beefy player, if I build an encounter to his skill set, his ability, and their ability, then the other players feel like they can't do anything and they can't hit because this guy can hit everything and can't be hit. So then if I do something where I can take and remove him from the fight, then he gets left out of this fight. This is where broken builds, power gamers, and metagamers get a bad name. It's when they are the difference of that party. And so we have to have those conversations outside of that party, outside of that group, and say, listen, I am not going to be able to balance the counters with you as you are a power gamer and these players are new players. You are going to significantly overwhelm and you're going to ruin the fun for them. But sometimes that's not the case either. Sometimes that character becomes the leader and the other people support that character, beefing and lifting him up and taking around the smaller guys so they don't get overwhelmed. Sometimes that's what happens. Utilizing minions or lower level creatures give the other parties that are not adept at their characters something to fight while the big beefy guy or the guy who's the power gamer is dealing with the main threat. That works for some parties. I don't know what your table looks like, so I can't give you the appropriate advice to, yes, this is a broken build, and no, that's not a broken build. So it's something that you have to keep in mind and practice. And how do you do that? By throwing lots of smaller combats at your party to see how they play and how they work together so you can build better encounters. If you only do one encounter per session and you play once a month, in 12 months, you're going to have 12 encounters. That's 12 opportunities in 1 year to practice. In my games, I will usually have 7 to 9 encounters in a 4-hour session. How do you do that? by keeping combat moving quickly and allowing the players to kill lower level creatures, but giving them enough of them to make sure they're using their resources. So yeah, we know there's always a fight on hand when we're in that adventuring scenario. And I'll use the same mobs, the same things, the same creatures over and over and over again so the players can get used to them and start focusing on them, figuring out what their weaknesses are and what their strengths are and how to handle the tactics, and then I'll switch it up. Not change the monster, not change that monster. Oh, this one lightning elemental is no longer, immune to lightning, is actually immune to fire. No. I'll give them a different monster. They've got this rhythm going, and then I throw something else at them. That's what becomes the challenge. But you have to do that through practice, and you have to do that through doing it over and over and over again. So the next time you have a one-shot where you're not playing as your main characters, throw lots of smaller combats at your players. Smaller combats are fun for players because they get to kill things quickly, move through things quickly, and overall, they may enjoy it. And if they feel overwhelmed because all of a sudden you start moving things onto the board, they'll feel like they have to use their resources. Play around with this. As a dungeon master, I encourage you, lots more smaller encounters will help your players become more accustomed to their characters, combat will move faster, and overall, it shows you where the broken builds are. If you don't practice against throwing things against that broken build, you'll never learn how to do it, and it will always stay broken. We can theory craft all day long, but there's nothing that substitutes encounters on the table. So keep that in mind. And guys, as always, what should you do? Like, subscribe, hit the button below, and join us on our Patreon, where we have Heroes Soul, the free version of Dungeons & Dragons that we are currently creating. We need your feedback. We need your help. I am a lone creator. I have a subscriber goal of 1,365. I become a full-time content creator when I have 1,365 subscribers to Patreon of the lowest pay level or our paid members here on YouTube. YouTube will always be Dungeons & Dragons, TTRPG, Pathfinder content for Dungeon Masters and players. Patreon is where we'll do our Hero Soul and game development. As always, guys, thank you so much, and we'll see you when? We will see you next time.